You were named Academic All-Atlantic 10 for indoor track in 2004 and 2005, and for outdoor track in 2005. You were more than just an athlete.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the academic work I put in as well. I think a lot of what I did within the business school really kind of helped set up like what it means to move into the professional world, and just kind of get that experience of working with a variety of different students and professors and different projects, and understanding kind of how to collaborate, how to work together, and how to kind of gain that knowledge in specific areas. So yeah, worked hard in the classroom as well as on the track, and proud of those efforts and those acknowledgments.
How hard was it to keep up with your studies on the road?
Um, I would say not very difficult, because we often didn't travel very far from the Bronx. A lot of our races and meets were within kind of the tri-state area. So I would say it was more infrequent, where we would travel kind of, it would be multiple days away, and more effort to travel. So the travel wasn't an issue, but certainly just
Did
balancing the energy and effort needed to do everything, what took the most out of it.
You reset school records for the 500 meters in 2005 and also set the school mark in the 400 meters in 2006, qualifying for the ECAC championships for each race. The more you raced, the better you got.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that like I think was my style of just like consistent effort, just like constantly putting in the work, and I never sort of had any dramatic changes one way or the other. I would just kind of consistently getting a little bit better each year. And again, I think that speaks to my coaches and my teammates of pushing me and just like allowing me to continue to push myself, and kind of grow in that steady but growth areas. And so yeah, I'm kind of, if you look at the times from my freshman year to my senior year, there's kind of that steady decrease in times in the events that I ran in.
And then senior year, you won the Atlantic 10 outdoor championships in the 800 meters. Nice way to go out.
Yeah, that was it was unexpected, because the 800 is always such a competitive race, and I knew I was getting faster, but I also knew that everybody else in the field was also very competitive. And I remember when I crossed the line, and I can't remember my time, but I had never gone under 2:10 for the 800. And I remember I had one last chance, potentially more, but likely one last chance at the ECAC championship. And that meet was the first and the only time that I ran under 2:10. And it was my last meet at Fordham. And yeah, it was just such a satisfying way to go out, knowing that sub 2:10 is such a marker and kind of like a key indicator in the 800. So yeah, I was really proud that I was able to finish my career in that way.
Who motivated you beside you as an athlete?
Definitely all of my teammates and my coaches. I have, even to this day, have such a close group of friends that I've ran with. We've spent, so many times working out each week and each year. And even those that I only spent a year with at Fordham, still have relationships with, and still inspired by. So yeah, I mean, again, it's track and field is an individual sport, but at the same time, it is very much a team sport.
Who uh, who motivated Maureen beside Maureen? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like my teammates definitely were strong motivators. And then, Coach Dewey is just one of those legends at Fordham, who was oversaw the program for so many years, up until currently. Coach Brian Horowitz is overseeing the team, and he was a great coach for me. He has kind of unique styles of coaching, but really the way that he gave me autonomy to kind of test myself while giving me the tools to be successful just really was a good match, and how I was able to continue to mature as a runner.
What drove you as an athlete?
That's a good question. I would say I'm a very goal motivated person, and so my goal was always to get a little bit faster, a little bit more competitive, and so I would say like just having those internal goals really drove me to push myself.
You mentioned one injury. Were there others along the way?
Oh yes, it's hard. It's hard not to be a Division I athlete without getting injured because obviously you're putting a lot of pressure on your body. I would say probably freshman year, I dealt with the most injuries. Obviously, my hip injury to start, but one thing that I didn't quite factor in the transition when I was running for my high school in Pittsburgh, we often ran on trails, so kind of more soft surfaces. And then in moving to the Bronx, a lot of our runs were on the streets. So now you're suddenly running a lot more on pavement and concrete. So definitely dealt with some, ankle and various other leg injuries along the way. But I would say most of them were sort of minor in the sense that I was able to rest when needed and get back without kind of too much impact to the schedule.
Tell us about coaches, trainers, strength and conditioning people who helped you along the way.
So many, so many. Um, Definitely Coach Dewey, as I mentioned. He was a great coach for me. Again, he has a pretty unique style in that he really kind of gives you the tools and the information that you need as an athlete, but then gives you a lot of freedom to make the decisions. And some of those decisions may be good, some not. In terms of what you put into it is what you're going to get out of. And so he really helped again with that slow but steady growth over the years. And I came in, I think maybe as a 2:30 800-meter runner, and then my last meet when I graduated was 2:09. So dropping 20 seconds and a half mile is pretty significant. So really put a lot in him, and obviously there were other coaches that supported in that as well, and doing the workouts and just in my growth. And then I owe my career to Vinny, who was in the athletic training department, because this incident with my hip, it was just that, it was an incident, and I had the unfortunate experience of going to, I won't say it, but one of the nearby hospitals in the Bronx, and they had sent me home with a dislocated, or not a dislocated hip. They had sent me home and said that I probably just pulled a muscle. So they sent me home with a dislocated hip. And being 18, not having cell phones at the time, and having painkillers that made me very loopy, I basically sat in my dorm for 2 days with a dislocated hip and didn't know it. And
Wow.
eventually, my roommates were had the wherewithal to know that something was severely wrong, and they had brought me over to the training room, and Vinny took one look at me and he said, "You have a dislocated hip. You need to go to the hospital now." So I did, and I had emergency surgery to relocate it. So yeah, it was a whole experience that year. But yeah, Vinny was great, and not only that, helping me through that specifically, but also the rehab that followed it.
Favorite track and field event was what?
Definitely the 500, indoor 500, hands down my favorite.
Toughest event?
I would say probably also the 500, 500 or 800, depending on the elements and the day.
Biggest win?
Biggest win, I would say probably my final meet, even though I didn't qualify for the next round of NCAA competition. Just being able to finish sub 2:10 was really impactful.
Biggest disappointment?
Oof, I'm, I'm sure there are many. Um, 'Cause, 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 there are many. Um I don't know that anyone sticks out, because as hard as I was on myself, I know I was surrounded by, a great group of friends and runners and coaches who were there to support me and pick me up in those moments. So nothing really sticks out specifically.
Biggest surprise?
I would say, again, kind of knowing that I wasn't expecting to compete in college and specifically at a D1 school, I would say just the approachability of that transition. I thought it would be a lot more intimidating, to walk on that track and to meet the coaches and the different runners who, were far better runners than I was. But there was very much an approachability about the entire experience that made it easy for me to transition.
Of all the records, the record you're most proud of?
Mm. I would say probably one of the relays, just because again, relays is a team effort and everybody has to be on the top of their game on that given day. And so, yeah, I think just, being able to share that record with three other people is something special.
Most cherished memory from the field of play?
Uh, Most cherished memory. That's a good one. I don't know if there's a specific memory, but I would say probably my freshman year Penn relays again, just sort of that awe-inspiring experience of stepping into Franklin Field and having an entire stadium cheering you on is really something that I had never experienced as a runner before. And yeah, even to this day, I've gone to Penn relays a few times post college, and yeah, every time I get the chills, and it's just really a fun meet.
Speaking of cheering you on, who comprised your cheering section?
um, I mean, all of my teammates, everybody, of course, was cheering and rooting for each other. And then I just had some really great roommates who weren't on the team, but always there to cheer me on. So yeah, I had a lot of people in my corner, which is, makes being an athlete that much more fun.
Were there any other athletes, Maureen, that inspired you in the various events?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, nobody specifically comes to mind in that moment. I think I was just focused on, again, kind of like my experience and the people around me specifically. But I do remember, like, especially competing in the A10, and some of the schools also being in the tri-state area, you start to see different athletes over and over, who are in the same events as you. So you also kind of look to those competitors as mentors, especially if they are at a place where you want to be. So I remember building some of those relationships as well with various athletes at different schools. But yeah, nobody specifically comes to mind.
You were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2012. How were you told?
Um, I vividly remember getting the letter, and being genuinely shocked, because it's just such an honor, right? The Fordham Hall of Fame, there's so many legends in it. And, I think I was only 5 years out of school at that point, or 6 years. And so it felt very surprising. And I just remember reading the letter, and just being genuinely shocked, and then immediately, told closest friends and family, and of course all my teammates, to kind of share in that celebration with me.
So over a period of years, you went from a card about Fordham to a letter
Yes.
inducting you into the Athletic Hall of Fame.
Yeah, pretty incredible journey to think about it from that perspective.
What do you remember about the day of your enshrinement?
Um, so at the time I was living in Washington Heights, and I remember kind of in life I had this uh, association with running being sort of like my grounding resource. And so I remember that morning I went on a run, just a very easy run around the neighborhood, and just really took in all of the feelings that I was having, and just had that moment to myself to really reflect on, that journey and that experience. And had some family and friends that came in from Pittsburgh to join me in the celebration, and so many of my teammates came as well. And so yeah, it was just an incredible day of celebration. And I got to
What are
get
your
inducted
remote?
with Derek Sapphire, who was also on the team with me. So that was fun too, where we had the crossover of different years and different members on the team.
What are your emotions when you come back and you see your plaque, or you look out on the track that you ran on?
Yeah, so proud. I actually was just at Fordham this past weekend for a basketball game, and I took my son and my husband and met some friends there. And yeah, it's just every time I get to show that plaque to my son, it's an incredible experience to for him to know kind of the effort that I put in and to be recognized at that level. Surely he can't quite comprehend it and what it is, but he knows it's something meaningful. And then of course, anytime I always try to just go back and see the track, because it's just a flood of memories. I spent so many hours on that track, and yeah, it's just such a unique and special place.
There was a baseball player some years ago named Otis Nixon, and he was had great speed, Maureen, and his mother was also a world-class athlete. And in Georgia, they used to leave the house, and in front of the house, they would race down the block. And the mother would always beat him until the point, and this went on for years, until the point that Otis beat his mother, and that ended the races once and for all. Through the years, have you raced your son?
Oh yes, oh yes. I'm very much that mother, much to my son's displeasure. But yeah, he's got to earn that win, so I make him work for it.
What are you doing now?
So I work for a software company that's in the restaurant tech industry, and I've actually been there for 17 years now. I've been there almost since I graduated. So I've spent my entire professional career. I started as employee number 5, and now we're over 700 employees, and we went public 3 years ago. So it's been just an incredible journey to be able to experience so many different life cycles of a company and have so many different roles and responsibilities along the way. So yeah, I've been really, really thankful to have that opportunity.
And thankful to not be taking any more business law classes, correct?
Exactly, exactly. Although I did have one point where I had to work with some lawyers, and I was like, this is bringing back memories.
Maureen, the floor is yours. Sum up your Fordham experience and what you would like to say to the Fordham community.
Yeah, Fordham is everyone you meet from Fordham is just so incredibly proud to be a Fordham Ram, and I'm no exception there. My 4 years at Fordham was just simply the best 4 years of my life. I met so many incredible people who are now friends in my life that I know will be there, for the foreseeable future. And I just am so thankful to the entire Fordham university for the experience and the opportunity to be an athlete and to be recognized within the community. And so, yeah, I am forever grateful for that experience, and has shaped me as a person, as an athlete, and yeah, just so incredibly proud to be a Fordham Ram.
Thank you so much for being with us, and the best in life to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Ed. I really appreciate the conversation this morning.
This production has been aided and abetted by Athletic Director Ed Cull, Assistant Athletic Director Kara Field, and the indispensable and incomparable Joe DeBarry, member of the Sports Information Directors Hall of Fame. As the great Ernie Harwell once said, I think I've done all the damage I can do. Please note no animals, especially rams, were harmed in the production of this Zoomcast, nor any special effects used. And when all is said and done, there's nothing left to say or do. Thanks so much for putting up with me, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Ed Randall's Talking Rams.